The name of the movie is The Family Friend. A series of terrible events are set in motion when a desperate and selfish moneylender falls in love with his client's daughter and pursues a relationship with her in secret. Saverio talks to his wife about his daughter's wedding expenditures in a little Italian village, as well as brother-in-law. Even after getting a reasonable quotation for the reception, the broke man searches for a less expensive option. He acknowledges that he is unable to pay for the bride's outfit, the wedding favors, and the meals for 200 guests. Jeremiah, an elderly tailor, and his ailing mother reside in a rundown apartment together, and she constantly gives him instructions to change her bedpan. After taking care of his mother's requirements, he meets Sylvia, the matchmaker. She presents him to Romanian widow Belana and advises him to get to know her more by inviting her to his flat. The tailor notes that the woman doesn't speak Italian, which might provide a communication issue when they first meet. Belana is curious about what occurred when she suddenly finds his fractured arm, but he reassures her that it's nothing major. Jeremiah brings the widow to his flat, as advised by Sylvia. He makes an effort to speak with her in spite of the language barrier. The elderly guy tells Belana that his father left them when he was 9 years old and moved to Rome in order to start a new life when she looks at a family portrait. He tells her that he is going to get her a folding bed, assuming that they will live together. Belana declines Jeremiah's offer of a tour of the house and instead asks for a glass of water. The woman has already left when the elderly guy returns from his trip to the kitchen. The tailor visits his shop later that day to carry out his money-lending operations. He meets Tiziana Senator there, a woman who wants to borrow money for plastic surgery. But after looking her over, the elderly man concludes that she doesn't need the money because there are no physical issues with her. She threatens to go after his rival, Pirate, when he requests 7 days to consider it. Jeremiah is visited by a pregnant couple who need help because their child is ill and they are back at his sewing table. The moneylender replies by promising to set up a visit from a doctor at their home. The husband and wife give their gifts, grateful, and head out. After that, he goes to a little pub that his helper Gino owns. He frequently gives Gino the task of checking the backgrounds of his debtors. After that, he invites her to look into Tiziana before walking away. The moneylender visits the grocery store before returning home, where he carefully hides some food inside his coat. He asks the cashier at the checkout to give him a discount on the candy. She first insists that he must spend at least 100 euros, but in the end, she gives in and gives him the sweets without charging him. He sees people dragging chairs along the street on their way to an event as he makes his way home. He throws the stolen item to his mother when he gets back to his flat and then has dinner. Rosalba de Luca, competing in a competition to become the new Miss Agropontino, she who is Saverio's daughter wins. She gets a check for 500 euros. The woman steps onto the stage and begins to dance at the host's request. Gino is one of the audience members that is enthralled with her performance. Still struggling to find the money for his daughter's wedding, Saverio is advised by a friend to approach Jeremiah, dubbed Jeremiah Heart of Gold, for help. The chef reveals that the loan shark considers himself to be a giving person and adopts the persona of a dependable family friend. But he warns the anxious parent that the moneylender runs background checks and stresses that if the debt is not paid back on time, it will triple. Jeremiah pays the newlyweds a visit in the interim. The woman eventually gives over a necklace she was given as a baptism gift since they couldn't pay on time, but the collector claims the item is worthless. Then the loan shark heads to the kitchen, grabs their fancy cooker, and walks out. The loan shark returns to the couple's apartment after his other guys have departed, sensing that the wife is keeping something from him. Then he reaches awkwardly into her pocket, takes out a fancy ring, and walks off with it. The next day, Jeremiah and Gino go fishing while talking about Tizinia's past. The proprietor of the tavern discloses that the borrower is dependable and has a prosperous brother, confirming her ability to pay back the debt. Gino tells them that he intends to quit his bar and move to Tennessee during their talk. Abruptly, the moneylender is asked by the cowboy if he considers him a friend. The elderly man replies that he hasn't given it much thought. Another client, an older woman looking for a loan for her surgery in Paris, pays Jeremiah a visit at work. She makes it clear that she needs 9,000 euros and says she can pay 50 euros a month. The moneylender remarks that he would have to die before she could finish paying him back after learning this. The old woman replies that she can suggest to his son that he sell his 15,000 euro bonds. He consents to give her the money right away after she breaks down in tears over her predicament. Jeremiah visits with Saverio the next day and goes through his possessions. Afterwards, the father introduces his soon-to-be married daughter Rosalba to the moneylender as a family friend. After that, the elderly man welcomes and congrats her. Rosalba assures Jeremiah that her future husband will not back out of the ceremony when he questions her later about him. She excuses herself shortly thereafter. He gives her a quick squeeze before she heads out, saying he can't wait to see her again. On his way home, Tesoro surprises Jeremiah by approaching him and asking for a loan to buy a nobility title, which he hopes will help him establish his noble lineage and seal a deal with the Vatican. But the moneylender says no, stating that he doesn't trust God or the Vatican, which is why he's not interested. The old woman receives 9,000 euros in the meantime, and she spends it in a bingo hall. Gino, who is seated across from her, tells her that what she is doing is inappropriate and would only aggravate Jeremiah. He emphasizes that medical expenses rather than gaming should be covered by the borrowed funds. The woman, however, insists that the money is hers and that she can use it however she pleases. When the cowboy hears this, he tells her that until she pays off her obligation in full, she is out of money. Gino goes with Jeremiah the following day as he helps the couple choose a wedding favor. Rosalba objects, calling it gaudy and awful, as the moneylender proposes they go with the pricey horse and carriage. Saverio responds by reminding Rosalba that he is their family friend when she becomes upset with his recommendation and asks why the elderly man had to make the decision for them. The woman, however, ignores this and is adamant about obtaining the silver spoon because she finds it to be tasteful and useful. Persuaded by Gino and the bride's family, the disgruntled moneylender consents to purchase it. Rosalba observes her father's tension at home and asks him about the name of their family acquaintance. Then, Saverio acknowledges that he is a moneylender. When the woman realizes this, she says her dad has made a terrible decision, emphasizing that he's incurring debt only for attending a dinner at an event where many strangers would be present. Saverio replies that he understands his daughter's want for a low-key wedding, but he's going above and above to spare her more humiliation. He highlights that because he has always protected his daughter from humiliation, she has never experienced it. When Jeremiah pays a visit to the bride's family, he discovers that the wedding favors have arrived. Rosalba's parents are generous enough to give him the horse and carriage he had first chosen. With scarcely an hour till the wedding, the wife, aware of Jeremiah's skill as a tailor, asks him to repair her daughter's dress strap, which has come undone without warning. He quickly connects a strap with a needle as he enters Rosalba's room, but in the process of fixing the gown, he betrays his actual intentions by inappropriately touching her. Abruptly, if she consents to give in to his demands, the moneylender offers to lower the interest to 80%. The woman agrees to assist her father pay off his debt, but she bargains for a 10% reduction. The elderly man knocks her down after hearing this. He closes the transaction at 12% because she makes him happy. Rosalba's mother and Jeremiah later take a car ride to the church. After the ceremony, the tearful bridegroom and her spouse stroll down the aisle together, and the heartbroken old guy exchanges tearful looks with her. After the wedding, Gino discusses the elderly woman who had borrowed money for her surgery in Paris with the moneylender. Unfortunately, her son has sold the bonds, so she is unable to reimburse him. When Jeremiah hears this, he gives the borrower the order to be executed. His aide, however, says he is incapable of doing so and notes that they have never had that level of success before. The elderly man, however, is adamant that it must occur. The moneylender and his henchmen go to the debtor's residence that night, but they don't find her there. The following day, Jeremiah gets a visit from Atanasio, the sales manager, in his tailor store. He clarifies that he is employed by Montanaro, a successful businessman who specializes in mass-producing bathroom products. The man reveals that the managing director of a multinational corporation that runs 2 hotel chains in the US and the UK is married to his boss. He goes on to say that the businessman wants to beat the competition by installing bidets in every bathroom, a scheme that will cost about €1 million. The moneylender laughs at this and emphasizes that he only gives small loans to those in need. The sales manager, however, claims he can repay the loan in full in 2 months and offers the old man a 48-hour window in which to decide whether or not to meet with Montanaro. The manager suggests that if he doesn't hear back, he might try asking Pirate, his competitor Loan Shark, for help. When Jeremiah and Gino meet the following afternoon, they talk about Montanaro's wish to borrow €1 million. Gino counsels the moneylender to exercise caution when managing such a sizable amount after he acknowledges that he's still considering it. The elderly man says that the elderly woman disappeared when the cowboy asks what happened to her. Unbeknownst to Jeremiah, his helper had transported the borrower to his RV in order to protect her from the nefarious scheme of the loan shark. The elderly woman tells the cowboy to take down the provocative posters from inside the car, saying it looks like a jail cell. All he says, though, is that the signs keep him company. The debtor then thanks him for letting her stay, although she acknowledges that she would rather go back to her previous life. But Gino tells her that there won't be any life left for her to return to if she departs. The bar owner is later asked by the elderly woman why he wishes to settle in Tennessee. The cowboy replies that he enjoys the location since it's remote. Jeremiah meets Belana as they are sitting in the park. She is now seeing a sick man. His loneliness is greatly heightened by this sight, which prompts him to see Rosalba, who dislikes seeing him. Montanaro is interested in borrowing €1.2 million, so the moneylender and his assistant arranged a meeting for the next morning. The businessman then gives Jeremiah a contract to review and verify before returning it, and he assures him that he will be paid twice as much. The businessman consents to give the original documents to the moneylender when they ask for them. The elderly guy brushes off Montanaro's statement that he needs the money right away, hinting that they should wait for his decision. The businessman and sales manager give Jeremiah and Gino a gift of 2 women in a bathtub before they depart. But such a gesture offends the moneylender, who leaves the location with his helper. Jeremiah assures Gino as they walk that he will not fall for simple women and that, with his endearing communication style, he can find one on his own. Later that day, Tesoro returns to the moneylender and expresses regret for his impolite conduct the previous day. He tells how his mother, a governess, and his father, an aristocrat, had a covert connection. The man continues, saying his father had always refused to see him and that he urgently needs the money because he has to buy his father's title since it is about to expire. As he tells his story, the moneylender reflects on his own experiences and advises that dads rarely come back, either by passing away or going missing. The elderly man ultimately chooses not to give him a loan, even though he feels sorry for him. When Jeremiah gets to the tailor business later that day, he finds a distressed Saverio sitting at his sewing table, pleading for a loan to cover his wife's burial expenses. Rosalba, displeased with the procession, withdraws from the throng to grieve beside a brick wall. The tailor comes up to her and gives her support and condolences. She is aware of his pretended pity, though, and knows he intends to mistreat her once more. Jeremiah later makes an attempt to speak with Rosalba in her bedroom. He nods when she asks him outright whether he's in love with her. This happens abruptly. The moneylender then asks her if telling him about their unsuitable relationship caused her mother to have a heart attack, to which she replies that it wasn't because she was pregnant. Rosalba acknowledges not knowing who the baby's father is. She says that the baby's monster features might be a sign that it's the tailor's offspring. Gino removes and burns every controversial banner from his RV that evening. In the meantime, the old lady hits the 40,000 bingo jackpot. She then gives her grandson instructions to go see Jeremiah and give him the entire amount. Later, Rosalba receives a visit from the frantic moneylender in her carpet shop, inviting her out on a date. He offers her, when they're on a boat, to just tell him she loves him, even if it's not true, and he'll pay off her family's debt. In the meantime, Montanero meets Jeremiah and Gino outside his office the next morning, and he uses his knowledge of the elderly man's status as a loan shark to intimidate the moneylender into granting the loan. Rosalba accepts the moneylender's offer to help her family pay off their debt and pays him a visit that evening in his apartment. After confessing her affections to him, they enjoy a beautiful moment together. Soon later, a delighted Jeremiah tells his mother that he has decided to lend Montanero 1.2 million euros in the hopes of receiving a return that is doubled. The old woman replies by reminding him to give out little loans only. She claims that by making such a big loan all at once, there's a chance they won't receive it back, endangering everything they own. But even so, he just makes a passing mention of the necessity to approve the loan since he plans to use the funds to move in with Rosalba and put his mother in a nursing care. His mother implies that she just wants her son to take care of him in response. She informs the moneylender that Rosalba would bring about his demise, feeling offended by his choice. The next day, the moneylender goes to the bank and obtains a sizable amount. He then makes his way to Montanero's office to give him the loan in cash. But when he gets to Rosalba's house that evening, he witnesses her pulling out of the driveway. When he chooses to pursue her, he finds out that she is seeing Gino. He drives off after seeing this, realizing with tears in his eyes that his mother was correct. After that, Jeremiah goes to Rome to see his father again, but the elder simply ignores him. The moneylender sees three people strolling down the road dressed like Roman soldiers as he makes his way back home. He soon identifies them as Montanero, Atanasio, and the businessman's helper after giving them a closer look. They reveal to Jeremiah that they are actors who perform as Roman soldiers for tourists in order to make a life. Subsequently, they disclose that Gino had already contacted them and employed them to pilfer his funds. Furthermore, they reveal that Rosalba and the twin goons are with the cowboy. The saddened man drives to his cunning assistant's RV and shoots him, believing he has ended the relationship, after discovering he has been betrayed. But when he turns on the lights, he finds that nobody is home. Rosalba tells her father in the meantime that their debt has been paid off. She tells us that she plans to go to Rome to pursue a career in dance. Her disgruntled father, though, merely calls her a coward. However, Gino is content that he will be seeing Tennessee at last. The following day, when Jeremiah gets home, he discovers his mother dead in her bed. The next morning, his father shows up out of the blue and gives him 50 euros. After his mother dies, the impoverished tailor goes back to his store and sits at his sewing table, clearly distraught about the turn of events. That evening, having come to terms with his greed, Jeremiah goes to a water fountain and drinks.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.